Yo guys, so we are going to react to the Dead by Daylight 10th anniversary broadcast. Now, I'm not watching the whole thing, like, hold on. But somebody did do like a timestamp. I'm on the second panel and they just presented basically their jobs and what they do, and basically the commentator or host, uh, he asked how basically their jobs kind of mixed together and everything. So
essentially, yeah. When I get the concept from the overlady, what I do is essentially I give the
Concept
task to my
artist.
team, my amazing team that they're so good looking. Also, they just start essentially to translate that into 3D. And
Oh,
then
modeling,
we make
okay.
it game ready by the end of it. And at each stage, obviously, we go through art direction as well. And then we also check in with the chance team. So everything is like working for the next team that comes after us.
Right.
Okay.
And yeah, basically, while Daniela's team is working, we're looking, are the clothes going to deform well as well, like the shoulder mostly.
Okay, so
and
rigging
then we
and
start
animation.
animating and figuring out if it's working or not. And
I love that. And I can say, because I get to attend those meetings, I contribute nothing. You can back that up. I contribute nothing helpful. I contribute things, but not helpful things.
Oh, no, sometimes
they
you're
are the
helpful.
most fun meetings
Sometimes.
at behavior.
Sometimes.
This team
But-
is ridiculous, and they're so fun to work with, and I wish I could.
Yeah, I mean, behavior's whole company is cracked. I'm not gonna lie. It's full of talented people, and they know how to make a game look good, feel good.
Share the things that are said in those meetings, but I can't because not appropriate. Not appropriate.
Are you saying we're ridiculous?
Well,
Oh,
not as a human, you're not ridiculous.
Okay.
I want to start with kind of a big picture question. So when a player sees a DVD character for the first time, how do we make it read as horror?
So there's a lot of
What,
thinking
make
about
it
how
scary?
and why we feel fear that goes
Okay.
into the visuals of a character. When you think about what fear is and where it comes from, it's a survival instinct. So what
yeah. And it's one of the things that's really hard when you're doing a game, especially like when your goal is to make your goal is basically an emotion, and it's pretty subjective to different people, and it's very hard to nail. That's why I feel like Dead by Daylight, when I watch gameplays, um I see the different horror elements, and I might not feel like straight fear, but I feel disgust, or like by the little by the environment, it's dirty, there's a lot of blood, or the way that the killer might like literally like oh my god, attack you, and like those different element kind of adds up and adds to the horror and actually makes it scary. But I do feel like they've nailed
are the
it.
things
I
we
mean, it's
can
been 10
use
years
as
too,
visual
so.
cues to sort of trip that instinct in the people that are watching, or seeing this character in the store or in the game. And a lot of times it's stuff like in the silhouette. There's going to be elements of asymmetry and like
Yes.
uncanniness. Uncanniness is a good one, especially when you get characters like the unknown, who sort of looks human at first glance, but then the more you look at it, the more wrong it looks, and that provokes like that fear in you. So basically,
Okay.
we try to make people scared.
Yeah.
Are you saying in our asymmetric horror game that asymmetry leads to horror?
No.
Pretty much, yeah. Humans.
I mean, humans are natural. I mean, hold on. The thing is, like, I feel like from afar, you might look at me and feel like, oh, it's symmetry, but there's always asymmetry in every human being. But whenever I feel like the human eye notices the asymmetry, like the little offset, off balance, or whatever, like it bothers them. I think that's really what it is. It creates like a sense of discomfort.
Humans like things that are symmetrical, like visually
Yes.
speaking.
Yes,
We
even though like that doesn't even make any sense, and like like whenever like and the thing is like whenever I do like a sculpting, and I always work first in symmetry, right? It looks nice and everything, but like whenever you compare it to the reference, like your reference, there's no way that the face is perfectly like just squared and everything just looks alike from one side to the other. So like it's kind of funny how like human beings find discomfort in asymmetry when like that's normal in our reality, and like it just doesn't make any sense. But I mean, she's right though. She's right.
tend to find things that have like smooth round shapes. They tend to feel friendly to us, whereas things that are kind of crooked, spiky, pointy, off kilter, those tend to trip those kind of fear reactions. Even if they're not actually scary, there's still a part of your brain that kind of goes,
It's just-
this isn't
it's
right.
just-
Something is
yeah.
wrong here, and that's kind of the feeling we try to create
It's
when
just
people look at killers.
uncomfortable.
And there's a lot of different ways to do that. There's like gore, because of course humans have this instinct to protect their bodies, which is why you know
Yes.
needles, even if it's just a tiny, tiny little thing, needles are terrifying because your body realizes that it's like something that is invading you. So we try to get all those little things into our different characters. So for some people, for the Krasu, it's like the gore. It is terrifying to see someone with their organs on the outside. That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, we work a lot with contrasting characters a lot, especially the ones that are humanoid. Those are the ones that present more challenge because essentially you know that there's something wrong with them. You need to make it unsettling somehow, right? Like the trickster, he's so hot and beautiful, and you're like, how are you terrifying? But then you see him like in conjunction with like the posing that he has, the personality that he was given, the way he moves, like you know something is wrong with that dude. He cannot be that beautiful, just can be normal. See, they agree.
What?
I had to do this in the last panel too. For people watching on the stream, there's bungee jumpers screaming for their lives over here, which is actually pretty on brand.
It's perfect.
So sorry if you see us react.
Okay.
The uncanny valley that you mentioned also plays a part in animation, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
On animation, like the uncanny valley, I think even when it's not voluntarily, I think the biggest example would be Polar Express, which is a kids movie. But
That
the
is
people,
horrifying.
Yeah,
It's terrifying.
there's something wrong about those characters, and it makes it creepy. So we kind of lean into it as well, and with the unknown, same thing. We're trying to.
Unknown
Keep it.
fans.
It's a pretty cool character.
Yeah.
And,
Did you do the animations on that one?
I'm sorry?
You worked on the animations on the Unknown?
No, that was before I got on the team.
Oh, yeah. It's a great one.
I'm a bit jealous of the people that worked on it.
Danielle, this is a bit of a moving on question, but I'm interested because this is a thing that happens a lot in those meetings where we discuss, is something working, is something not working? So what sort of changes do you end up making or to a design if people agree it's not working, if it's not scary, if it's not hitting the marks?
Right, so usually we're gonna tweak the silhouette, we're gonna remove or add things or move them from one side to another. Like we don't want to have too many wiggly things and stuff like that that can be perceived as something else. So we're always trying to find a good balance between what looks good and translate it good from the concept, and then we adapt through it essentially. So it's a lot of like iterations with the rest of the team. Like you said, in the meetings that we're in, we get people's opinions of it, and a lot of our work is essentially, fixing the contrast, fixing the silhouette work, fixing the size of things, because sometimes the volumes are not working, and also in gameplay too, not working. We need to swap it up, and then that's pretty much the iteration process for us.
Fixing the size of
Yeah, the thing is sometimes like something will look good in concept, but whenever you put it in 3D, now it doesn't look as good, or sometimes it's really like it doesn't really make sense. How does this hold in real life? I feel like in concept, like there's a lot more room to really like exaggerate things or create things that might not make sense, but when you put it in modeling, now things changes, and that's really when I feel like character modelers or really environment artists really need to put their own like little interpretation, and that's really what leads to these many iterations of the asset.
Things like
Yeah,
like
fixing
butts,
sizes,
like butts.
moving things.
We're not going to talk about butts, Aaron.
She promised she wasn't going to talk about butts, so I'm making her. Yeah, that gets discussed in those meetings. Everything needs to be right with these
It's not
characters.
me.
So butts are part of the human body, or monster body, also.
We see them from behind a lot, so, you know, please.
Oh my
Nicole
god.
told me I couldn't talk about butts. It's fault.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
it's all good.
Yes.
My boss is
Like buttholes when they shouldn't.
Yeah. Honestly, those meetings are fantastic. We're doing a panel talking about meetings, but it is actually fantastic that this current state in the iteration process, and it's really cool that they're open to that feedback, and lots of changes have been made based on that in the end, I think have worked out pretty well. Yeah, so thank you for that.
I mean,
I wonder, Etienne,
in those
on the
meetings, you gotta
same
be open-minded.
page when something
You gotta be
is
able to
not
take
working,
criticism.
what's that like on the animation side? What
It's
breaks on the animation side?
Part of life.
The first thing that's going to break is the feel of the character, because that's basically the thing we work on the most. So if the anticipation is not right, then the gameplay is not going to feel right. It's going to feel clunky, not responsive. So it's the first thing that's going to break. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, I've got a question for all of you. Have you ever had a design that looked great as an image concept, but once it started moving, it lost the
Yeah, I
scary?
mean that's every concept, most likely.
So
I mean, not every, but like a lot
my
of them.
answer is for a survivor, so it's not exactly a scariness, although he is scary.
he's scary.
He is scary.
In a funny way.
Yes. So this is the Waterfront Massacre Ace, also known as Speedo Ace.
Yeah. So
One of my favorite skins.
yeah.
When we did him at first on the concept art, he had a proper Speedo, so
Right.
it was a little itty bitty Speedo.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, when we were working on the model, we realized that we couldn't make the mix and match fit the way we wanted to, because he would have had to have like a section of belly exposed above that little tiny Speedo. And in the mix and match, you would have ended up being able to tuck shirts into nothingness and then have this ace belly and then the tiny Speedo. So we ended up having to move that tiny Speedo and make it a little less tiny, which is a shame.
It was weird though, because that ended up looking like a diaper for a long
Well,
time.
yeah, for a while.
And we were like, well, which one do we want? The one that is kind of floating or the one that looks like a diaper? And then we had a secondary issue with that one, which, because it's so simple, we had this issue with the artists in which they were like putting shadows in a place where it showed a bit too much, and we were all like, why does it look so
Why is
big?
it so 3D? Something should not be that 3D.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my God,
I
what
was
was-
just like, it's 3D. I'm just a pure being. I didn't see what you were seeing, so I was just like, I didn't know what to say. So I was just like, we'll reduce the shadows. It's gonna be looking very flat, very,
Well,
acceptable.
we have to say though, there's two kinds of shadows in games, right?
Yeah.
You can cheat shadows and sort of paint them onto the model, and then there's the shadows that are created by the light in the game that are actually acting like shadows. So usually you don't want to add sort of painted shadows if you don't have to. But in this case, the artists lovingly rendered Speedo things.
Yeah. It's always Ace, though.
It's always Ace.
It's always Ace.
But I love that skin. I love that
We
skin.
love him so
Even
much.
if we had to raise his waistline a little bit to make sure the mix and match worked.
Yeah.
This wasn't one of the questions we discussed, but is there any difference in terms of the amount of work with a mix and match versus not? Is it all the same either way, or is one more time intensive?
Mix and match is more complex, yeah, because you have to think about both making a concept that looks really good in 2D. So you want that outfit to look like a really cool outfit on its own. And then you also want to not have the same silhouette that you've had a lot before. And we have a lot of characters, we have a lot of cosmetics, and a lot of characters have a lot of cosmetics. So sometimes you might want to make a piece, but I don't know, your character already has 10 pairs of black jeans. So what makes these black jeans different than the ones before?
Right.
So there's that to think of. But then there's also, how does it mix and match? And all of the outfits we've done before, we try and fit them to what we're thinking. But sometimes, in 10 years, fashion has changed.
Yeah.
Waistlines go up and down, but our characters mix and match does not.
So true.
Yeah.
So there's some times where we'll have a really cool design that looks great
has to be
on
annoying.
the concept, and then we realize that if we make it fit properly on the mix and match, the little tiny belt now becomes like a giant belt, and it sort of unbalances things, which is something we have to do a lot of back and forth.
Yeah,
for.
there's a lot of back and
Okay.
forth happening when we're doing the mix and match. Unlike locked outfits actually are the easiest ones for us to do because we don't have to worry about all of that, and it's kind of freeing sometimes. But obviously, we like to make it mix and match whenever we can, just to offer more, like, I don't know, some people like cosplaying on with their characters, so it's we always try to go for the mix and match, which is more work, but at the same time is more interesting, I find. So yeah, a lot of.
It does impact the animation too a little bit when we have things like killer weapons and like
The scales.
yeah, some killer skins have mix and match where it's not necessarily just the head, it's the torso too, the size of the weapons. It can change a lot of the feeling of.
Yeah. No, the animation can work or not work as well with different kind of weapons, and we need to think
Yeah.
about like where's the slashing part
Especially
of the weapon.
like I guess for
Need to make it.
Yeah,
Also
and
the
VFX too,
rigging.
because you might end up with a weapon in the design. I don't know. The blade is very short, but the VFX for the blood goes all the way down. So if you have him stabbed, then there's just mystery blood that appears. And no, we like
Can't have
the
that.
blood. No mystery blood. only logical blood
Right.
and extra blood. Lots of blood. It
And
has to
dirt.
make sense.
Lots of dirt and blood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Daniela, I mean, all of you can answer, but I wanted Daniela to start on this one. Like, a very big part of your life is survivors and killers. And I wondered, process-wise, work-wise, how big a difference is there? Obviously, one is a survivor and is one scary and trying to murder people. How much of a difference is there in the process and the time to do a killer versus a survivor?
Oh,
Well, survivors are usually much more like mainstream. Like very straightforward. Actually, not mainstream. Sorry. They're humans. So for us,
Yeah.
it's much more.
also they're supposed to be like a regular Joe. Like in a lot of these games, like I feel like the survivors are pretty like generic in a sense. Like it's not just they're regular humans. Like their outfit is not uh like how can I say that? I'm not gonna say like it's like something that anybody could wear. Like
Or like, oh, what kind of fashion are we gonna put into this one?
Yeah.
And the mix and match. They're pretty, easy to go. Like, I think that the biggest thing for us is to make really great hair for them, for example. So our like complexity on characters that are survivors comes mainly from like how beautiful can we make them look with their pretty hair, like the mix and match
okay.
looking great.
the
The type of fashion that we're using for that collection as well. While killers are a whole other deal, which takes way longer depending of the rarity even. Like for example, the rares and the very rares are a bit different. The legendaries are like a whole different thing. It's like a new killer for us, for example, in terms of complexity. They're much more harder to figure out. Even like legendaries are hard to figure out because we're like taking some concept that needs to fit into this killer and move like that killer, but it is not quite that killer because now it's like a licensed character, for example. So I don't know if you remember the Oni bear. That was a huge challenge for us because one, it has a bunch of fur. Two, it has to look like a bear. But it's fitted to the Oni, who moves like the Oni, like a big tough
Yeah.
guy. And so it's a lot of like that, finding a good balance
spell.
between,
Middle
it needs to
spell,
look
yeah.
like a bear because it's a visceral. Actually, it's a visceral. So the person working on it, Jeremy, hey Jeremy, I see you. He took that challenge on, and he was long and he was tedious, but
I remember when I was doing Moon of the Damned for my character, like because it's a game and fighting game, the atmosphere was pretty dark, and my character had the most amount of problem for visibility. It was really kind of it was fading in the background, right? And my character felt less visible. I think that's the best way I can say. Um, and there was a lot of iteration back and forth between like the color scheme, um, and what really fits with the character, the art direction and everything. Um, the translation between the concept art and the actual textures in game, um, to kind of like make my process like take less time between changing textures back and forth. I made a shader that made it easier, that would kind of really control like every little aspects of the color, that would just make it easier for me to really do to iterate a lot, you know. But
It was
yeah.
very complex, and we had to work a lot with like Etienne, for example, to make it work well. Like how are we gonna model all the like the hands so it looks like a paw, but also
Yeah, it was the same thing with even like for my process between the character and for with the rigging. There was a lot of adjustments I had to do, like the size of the gun of the arm guards, the size of the hands, really even the fur. The fur was the biggest problem, where I needed to iterate a lot, actually a whole lot, to really make the rig work. Um, and with the style of animation, uh, because of how the character is made, because of how in the concept, this is a very big guy that is that looks very stiff, right? But the animation shows like a lot of extravagant movements that are needed. So there was a lot of iteration with the fur, the blend cape, and the arm guards and the gloves. These were the main parts where I needed to change like a lot, you know. Um, I was really working in between with the concept artist, the rig artist, and the animators, where we're doing a whole lot of back and forth. So
fits the rig of the Oni, and we can still reuse some of the animation. I think with that one we did do new animation set.
Yes, because that one has a cat that the Oni doesn't have.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, but we needed to make it fit so we wouldn't like create extra work for the other departments too, because we didn't have like a special rig for it, right? And it also had
you have to find ways to really reduce the work, the time needed.
the cats.
For me, it was,
also, as a
for
child,
example, where it was taking a lot of time was the integration and texture, and it was really through shaders. And obviously the tech artist, Beatrice, shout out to her, but she made a base shader, right? And from that base, I made a duplicate, and I added the feature that I kind of needed for my character. It's kind of reduced the time needed to really like iterate, because going from substance and Unreal back and forth, and asking for feedback from the team and everything, like there's a lot of time wasted. And so making these modification through shader really helped me in reducing that time. So yeah.
because the more you had the cat, anyways, we were so obsessed with it. But yeah, that came with the challenge, because on top of making the bear, we needed someone to make the cat. That was the best time ever, though.
That was a fantastic.
It was great. So many cats on chat.
Where like 90% of our work is the killer, because every new killer has a complete set of animation. Survivor, it's mostly menu animation, but sometimes the killer will need a new survivor animation because the interaction. We'll create a new like grab blocker because the killer is too big and it doesn't work with what we have. But yeah, Survivor is mostly acting for the menu, giving them their good personality, so they really look like the character it's based off.
Sorry, this is another question we didn't discuss, but I want to know about Moris. Like, is there just one person on your team who's just really messed up, and that's the Mori person? or do you all mutually come to those disgusting, terrifying, frightening?
Each time, because it's the one shot that every animator wants. It's the biggest one, the coolest one to make. So.
Do you wait till the end, like you've done all the other animations? That's sort of like your treat to yourselves?
No, well. It's decided a bit in advance, but we need to start the Mori at the same time we start the killer, because it's such a huge animation that it takes a lot of time to
Yeah, it's
create.
a lot.
There's a lot of coordination involved with our teams because of that, because they're very complex.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Have you ever had a design that looked great? Oh, I asked that one, idiot. About the relationship between survivors and killers. How do
Basically, the killers need to feel powerful in whatever way they are. So even a smaller killer, even like a Kinnicky or Pig, I think is kind of survivor-sized. They can sort of look like a survivor at a distance, but once you get them up close, they really have to have that identity
That
of, you know, oh no, this is not Dwight. This is something else, and it's coming to get me. So
even with my process between the concept art and while I was doing the character model, shout out to Isabel for the concept. But even that, like, I think the team really wanted a contrast between the two characters, the character with the guillotine and my character with the Iron Maiden. And there was a lot of changes that happened with the concept to kind of feed into the needs of obviously the animators and rig artists and everything. But for my character, we really wanted him to feel heavy, to feel like every one of his hits would like knock you out, right? That this would be a huge guy that feels like that feels like how, I don't know how I would say it in English, but our mastodon, like that would feel like one of the big dogs, right? So like this game feel is really important. It adds a lot to the gameplay. It makes the gameplay very fun. The contrast between the two characters in Moon of the Damned makes this interesting, right?
yeah, there's a lot of consideration to kind of the power dynamic between them. And survivors on the art side, they're basically, you know, more or less normal people. So they're living their lives until they get sucked into the fog, and then they have to fight for their lives and die over and over again. So there's something, like, we try to keep the aspects that make them the characters that they are as part of their visuals. And for the killers, it's very much like, how do we feel the power of this character? What makes them scary? How do we make sure that when you see this character coming at you, you know who it is and what they're going to do to you, and you don't generally want that to happen.
Right.
Unless maybe it's Resite.
And Daniela, on the Survivor side, how does the team kind of have a toolkit of like how you make them feel vulnerable, or without making it feel weak, making it feel boring, but vulnerable, and like they're in a place that they shouldn't be?
Yeah. Another thing with the character Eamon, that's the name of the Iron Maiden. He needed also to be not just feel heavy but strong with the way he would, because he's handling like a Iron Maiden that's basically taller than him, like same size or even taller, and so every swing needed to like we needed to make the character even bigger than like the other character Guillotine. I think Guillotine is 6 foot, and Eamon, Eamon is like is if I remember correctly, like 8 foot or and something, like 8'2", if I remember correctly. Like, and even for like the gameplay, we needed the exact size of the character. It was pretty important for the gameplay. So yeah, like like we really wanted to get into like the more stylized exaggeration of proportions and everything to make at least my character feel like strong, heavy, and everything.
Well, usually we use, narrative lore in the way that we build our clothes, right? Our first pass is
Same
usually
thing.
very clean,
Because
right? So we
none of the characters in Moon of the Damned are humans. So I think Guillotine is basically like a ghoul vampire, and Eamon, he doesn't have a face. Like, it's basically just fog, right? So like, yeah, he might seem like a hunter and everything, but he's also a monster.
try to add little bits and pieces of stuff, because if you look at the killers in contracts, the killer, he has blood on them, or they have blood on them, but it's not their blood. So it looks like they've been drenched a little. While the survivors, usually, they can have blood that is their own, so you're gonna use like, oh, okay, he gets hooked, so we're gonna try to add
Dead by Daylight really inspired me. I'm not gonna lie. This is something I was talking about in the gala, where
a little bit
Dead
of
by
blood
Daylight
in here,
actually
a little drip in there, and
helped
maybe
me a
they're
lot
gonna like go
in
past a collie.
how to put my like how to put the story of Eamon through the textures, through the modeling and everything.
Or a friend there, and then just kind of get blood in, splattered. We usually try to bring like little ribs and stuff that we can add to, like, okay, they're running for their lives kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we section into the way that we render the clothes, etc.
Part of the collection stuff is also like we tend to factor in what the killer will look like in this collection versus what the survivors will look like, and it's not
Scary and what's just like uncomfortable and not particularly working out.
Some of
Absolutely
these are
loved,
the
but it
same
made
questions.
the character better. Did you have to make hard choices like that?
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, that's
Also, like, make the gameplay work, the responsiveness work. Yeah.
Cool.
yeah. Okay.
I wonder, between the three of you, have you ever had to remove something that you like absolutely loved, but it made the character better?
Oh,
Did you have to make hard choices like that?
Oh yeah, plenty. Aces.
Yes. I mean, it's not something that I had to remove, but I had to kind of reduce, and that was the fur. The fur was a lot more extravagant. It was a lot more punchy, but then in the later concept, they reduced the size of the fur. Now I couldn't like immediately just change it. It would be it would need too much work with the time that we had, but I really needed to really reduce calm down the shapes of the fur. And it's not like, I mean, it definitely made the design clearer in a way. So in a certain sense, it kind of made it better, but we made those changes for more technical reason, and it's one of the changes that, for me, I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna still do it. Like, the gameplay is the most important part, but it was a change that definitely I was kind of sad about. I'm not gonna lie. No, I kind of liked how the fur was really like very big, felt like it had like its own presence too.
This package, Shadow. I was really sad about that one. I was really sad. I thought he gave him, something, right? Some hope that he'd ever get a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I don't know. But there is plenty of stuff that we've had to like probably not remove, but probably, you know, as I mentioned before, change the silhouette a little bit, even though it looks so good, or like move a belt the other way because you wiggling weird and the shadows look weird, and
I feel
but it looked really.
I feel like you make a lot of these changes for more technical reasons than actual like creative reasons, right? I guess except for the shadow, the look felt weird to a lot of people, but I feel like that's what
Really
ends up
cool.
happening.
So there's a lot of like choices and iterations that we do that sometimes we have to tweak a little, so we get the feel that we're going for, which is scaring you essentially.
It's something that happens a lot on the concept art part of this, where maybe we have so many ideas of what this skin could be, so we end up putting in like, I don't know, tons of blood, and then he rolls like this is, you know, I love all of these elements together, but we keep the idea clear, basically. So it is something that does kind of happen a lot.
We have to do it with mix and match a lot, actually. We get times like, oh, we want the super like extra long hair. Looks
yes.
great.
Oh my god. I literally just talked about this. How, you know, with the fur, like, it was so cool with how big it was. It was dropping to the same length as the blend cape. Like, I thought it was so cool, but then I had to reduce it. I was like, okay. All right, I guess. You know, I was a bit sad, but I understood, you know, for the gameplay, for the animations too. I needed to reduce it.
Cut it. We're like, okay.
It happens on animation as well. Sometimes we almost finish a feature, and then with playtest, they realize the feature doesn't work at all. So we remove entire animation from the bank and need to pivot on something else. But
that hurts.
It's always a little hurtful.
Yeah.
Is there one character you think of that's changed the most between the concept and the final design?
Recently on animation, Jason, I think, was the... He was moving a little bit.
Or is that Mr. Mom movie that I saw recently?
I love
worst
spiders.
Worst movie ever. The poor things.
All right.
Hello, my question is either by making a Mori or a cosmetic, have you ever had to take a step back because every human being tolerance for horror can vary?
Sometimes it happens. I think during the Krasu, our meetings were right after lunch.
Okay, yeah, that one actually, yes. For me, it was just that people kept calling it the banana peel. And I couldn't eat bananas for like 2 months. I had so many cramps.
It happens a lot.
Especially when we're doing things that have very graphic references. We try not to traumatize our artists, basically. We work on dark, scary stuff, but we try to do it in a way that, you know, does not harm our people working or our people playing. So.
Okay. I think this was an interesting panel. Some of the questions I felt like were kind of similar to each other. But this was an interesting panel. I think I'm gonna cut the video there and just make another video for the other parts. So see y'all later.